welcome back to BetMGM tonight. Brad the Big Noise Evans with you. Ryan Horvat in the house on this Cinco de Mayo. And let the love juice flow. And hopefully you're enjoying it with your family. Hopefully you were dining on some fine Mexican cuisine while you're sipping on a little bit of that añejo reposado, or maybe kind of a mezcal if you're into the smokiness. And I certainly am into all of it, to be frank. I'm going to be indulging as soon as I get off the air, but we are here to talk some NFL football. We're going to be breaking down our very first 3-point stance. And we're going to be covering every single team, one per day over the next several days right here on BetMGM tonight. We're going to start down in the dirty South with the Dirty Birds, that being the Atlanta Falcons. And, hey, if you want to talk some fantasy football or NFL betting with us, if you want to talk some NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, whatever is top of mind, all gaming all the time, all you got to do to contact Tori and I is to pick up the phone and dial us, fools, at 833-732-3875. 833-732-3875. You can also hit us up on the X or the Twitter at BetMGM tonight, which is asking a certain question on our pole dancing poll question of the day. And what a coincidence. It's about a subject we're about to tackle right now. What discount Atlanta Falcon fantasy football option is most attractive out of Darnell Mooney with a 144.2 average draft position, Kyle Pitts at a 167.1 ADP, or Michael Penix Jr. at a 146.5 ADP, over 140 votes cast. Make your voice be heard. Exercise your democratic right. Keep the votes a coming and drop off your comments. We're going to read those coming up a little bit later on in the show on X at BetMGM tonight. On X at BetMGM tonight. And holy guacamole, the Boston Celtics and New York Knicks game has gotten muy interesante. Yes, as all of a sudden the Knicks are on a magical run. They have cut this lead with 10 and change to 6. It is 84-78. C's over the Knicks. Let me give you a stat update. Jalen Brunson tied with OG Anunoby as the leading scorers in New York, both with 18. Brunson also has 4 rebounds and 4 assists. You look at Josh Hart. He's got a double-double in this game. 13 points and 10 boards. Karl Anthony Towns hasn't really done much since early on, but he does have a dozen points with 6 rebounds. As for the C's, who are now only up by 4, it's kind of crazy that this game has come alive. I thought it was DOA just a few minutes ago. Tatum with 19. Derek White with 16. Jaylen Brown with 14. By the way, Tatum also has 13 rebounds, so he's got a double-double in the game. Peyton Pritchard with 13 off the bench. Drew Holiday with 11. So very tight game. 84-80. Again, Boston up by the skin of their chin right now with 9:25 to go over the New York Knicks. We'll keep you up to date there. Cubs up 4-2, top of the 6th inning. As Boyd comes out and is looking to deal another clean inning up to 82 pitches. This looks like it's going to be his final inning no matter what. Again, we'll keep you up to date. Action on the diamond, action on the hardwood in the NBA. But right now, we got to go to the gridiron and talk a little 3-point stance, Horvat. And here's how this rolls. We got 3 different categories. One is going to be fantasy value, one that really tickles your fancy. Then we're going to do a little prop stop, and I'm going to be dropping a prop. We're going to have a discussion on it. Tonight it's tied to Bijan Robinson, as you heard there in the rejoiner highlight. And then we're going to do a little team lean at the end, over-under on the team wins, and that is something you can bet on right now at BetMGM. So let's go ahead and get after it and start off with the fantasy football side of things. And all of our ADP data is pulled from Best Ball 10s. So they've got a very large draft sample. It's like something like 59 drafts that have been conducted since the end of the NFL draft. So really good sample size there. And I want your favorite fantasy value on the board. And here's how I kind of describe values. You know, any pick available after pick 100 overall, or outside of the starter ranks in a 12-team league. And most 12-team leagues, you start 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, tight end. That'll count as well. So if it falls outside of those rankings, whether top 36 at wide receiver, top 24 running back, top 12 at tight end or quarterback, I will allow it as a fantasy value. Otherwise, just use ADP overall as a guide outside the top 100. So, Ryan, who's your guy on the ATL that you think is going to yield a nice fantasy value this fall?
I was looking at skill position players, Brad, but I think Bijan's properly rated, and I think he's an absolute stud. Tyler Algier, this could be the year where maybe the touches go away or at least diminish a little bit. Drake London's a stud, but he's top 10 if you're looking at best ball. So I went with Michael Penix Jr., who I ended up selecting right now, 146.5, QB 20. Here's a bold hot take for you guys. I think he's going to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback. Not NFL quarterback yet this year, but fantasy quarterback. You go back, you watch what he did week 18, threw for over 300 passing yards, had 318 through the air, 2 touchdowns, also had a rushing score. That week, he was QB7, so he was a top 10 quarterback. Loved him at Washington. I liked him at Indiana. The problem at Indiana was he was a dual-threat quarterback playing behind a really bad offensive line, and he couldn't stay healthy. So I know he's had some injuries, but I like the fact that he can make every single throw, literally every throw. I like what I saw in a small sample size. I like the fact that, unlike Kirk Cousins, he could take snaps under center because he can move, right? You don't have to primarily just use him out of the shotgun or the pistol. And he's experienced. These quarterbacks that have stuck around in college, even like Joe Burrow, that had to bounce to 2 different programs, these guys have just came into the league and kind of lit it on fire. So I think anywhere from like 28 to 32 touchdown passes, 3 to 5 rushing touchdowns, maybe like 3,000 to 4,000 passing yards, and 450 to 500 rushing yards are realistic expectations for Penix. So I like him as quarterback 20, man. My hot take is I think he's a top 10 fantasy quarterback as long as everybody stays healthy. Maybe this is the year for Kyle Pitts, so I'll go with Penix.
Yeah, and that defense is still a work in progress. So, they made a lot of investments and upgrades in the NFL draft and during free agency in the offseason, but it's going to take time to meld, to gel, to come together, right? So, yeah, I mean, Penix, you got to like the duality. I got to like the weapons around him. Yeah, I think he's grossly undervalued at QB 20 as well. And again, I play a lot of those 2 quarterback formats, those super flexes. Yeah. He is somebody worth going the extra mile to try to get because he's probably going to turn a tidy profit this season. And I believe, too, that Darnell Mooney is going to do the same. So I'm going to shoot for the stars there. Wide receiver 51 is the ADP at 144.2 overall. I think he's easily going to be a top 50 wide receiver. I think he could be a top 40 wide receiver, where he finished last year as wide receiver 34, so a back-end WR3 in 12-team half-point PPR leagues. He had 107 targets, 64 catches a season ago, 992 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Mike Clay, ESPN, has got it projected for 96 targets, 59 catches, 820 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He has them exactly at wide receiver 51, but I think he's underselling him. 6.7 targets per game is what he netted last year. He was number 16 in total air yards. That's attractive. Number 27 in ADOT. That stands for average draft or average depth of target. He was number 10 in total deep ball targets. Only number 78 in catchable target rate. Thank you, Kirk Cousins, for sucking. And I think that number will improve. Number 28 in total route wins. And what I love about how Atlanta is utilizing him under Zach Robinson is he's extended branches of the route tree, right? In Chicago, he was just a streak threat. Now he's still a streak threat, but he's a guy that they utilize in the screen game, in the intermediate pass game. Short slants, quick outs. He can run those routes and was in a rhythm and flow with either Kirk Cousins or Penix. So I like the overall game. I think is an exceptional value right now at wide receiver 51. And a guy, ultimately, again, I think could yield a back-end QB3 total in 12-team and deeper fantasy leagues. All right, let's go to a prop stop. Not a whole lot of props out there, so let's just have a general discussion on this one. Because I love the value of this. Bijan Robinson is your old boy. That's offensive player of the year at 12-1. Are you a buyer or a seller on Bijan winning that coveted award?
Yeah, I was really happy to see that you put this in the rundown today, man, because I'm a psycho. I bet Gibbs and I bet Bijan. I think he's going to have a monster year. Hot take. He had 304 carries last year. That would make him running back number 4. He had over 1,400 yards, and that was, with Tyler Algier still getting a lot of touches, and that was 3rd among all running backs. He had 14 touchdowns, and he's also used in the pass game. I think Atlanta's offense is going to be much better this season. and I think it's going to be a big year for Bijan. So 12-1, I love that price, man. I think realistically he could have 50 to 60 catches, another 14 to 1,500 rushing yards, and 20 touchdowns on the ground. I really do. So I love that price.
I do too. And right now, in terms of average draft position in fantasy, he's 2.95. He is RB1 overall. He's going ahead of Saquon Barkley right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's entirely fair. I mean, Saquon's always got the downside of injuries. He had a monster overall workload last year. Can he remain upright this season? A lot of continuity there. And, of course, the Eagles' offensive line, one of the NFL's best. But believe it or not, the Falcons ranked number 1 last season in run blocking efficiency according to Pro Football Focus. So they were exceptional in that regard. And I agree that I think 2,000 combined yards, entirely realistic. That's just kind of a next step for him in his football playing evolution. He had over 1,800 combined yards last season, and he got off to a slow start. I mean, I remember some dude was talking hellified junk to me on social media at Noisy Huevos every single week saying, you're an idiot for ranking Bijan Robinson number 1. And he kept reminding me every Sunday. And he did that for 4 or 5 weeks. And then I hit him back and said, dude, where you at? Bijan is all of a sudden inside the top 5. Dude, where you at? Bijan's now inside the top 3. Radio silence. He couldn't even stand up for himself and accept that he, got it wrong and accept defeat. But I always, accept my defeats. You should do the same. Have some huevos if you're willing to talk some smack to the general on-air people that are out there. But Bijan Robinson, the guy's got to leave the smack down on the opposition. Number 4 in total missed tackles last season. Number 3 in total red zone touches. Number 1 in yards created. And again, it's all about the trench warfare. And Atlanta wins in those situations. He's catching a boatload of balls. There are no weaknesses to his game. And I'm with you, man. I think they dialed back Tyler Algier this year. Bijan is going to be the bee's knees. Go the extra yard, 10 yards if necessary to get him on your fantasy team.
Yeah, man. And really quick, just to piggyback off what you said, the last 5 games of the season, when Michael Penix Jr. took over as the starting quarterback, he averaged 115 rushing yards. And that was because when Kirk Cousins was out there, remember the first 3-4 weeks, he couldn't take a snap under center. So if they were running the ball, they were out of the pistol. If they were throwing the ball, they were out of traditional shotgun. So that doesn't help Bijan, right? Because you could just stick 8 men in the box when you see Kirk Cousins dinosaur ass out there on one leg in the pistol. So having a quarterback, a dual threat quarterback like Penix Jr., even though he's not Mike Vick, I think that's really beneficial for Bijan. So I love this bet, man.
All right, let's get a team leaning here. Over-under on wins. The number is at 7.5 right now at BetMGM. The over a -145. The under a +120. What say you?
Sheesh, -145. I don't really want to lay right now, but I would only bet the over. I think this is an 8 to 10 win football team. I bet them to make the playoffs. I like +220 for them to win the division. Let's say finally there's some regression in Tampa on the offensive side of the ball for Baker and the boys. Atlanta's got all the weapons on offense. You brought up the run block win rate, so the offensive line's been fixed up. Now it comes down to can they improve that defense, especially that pass rush. I love what they did in the draft 2 off seasons ago. They spent the 4th most money in all free agency on the defensive side of the ball. I think this is the year that it finally pays off. So I would go over. I haven't bought in on this team the last 3 years. This year with Penix, that offense, Bijan, and that defense, I think this is at worst an 8-win football team in a weak division. And they have the 4th easiest schedule.
Yeah, I concur, Captain. I'm going to take the over as well. Strength of schedule is quite attractive, as you just laid out. They're number 13 EPA per play offense last season. They're going to be much improved with Penix under center the entire year. That defense is only number 20 in EPA per play deep. All the investments, I realize, are going to be young, but Pierce and Walker and also Watts in that defensive backfield, a lot of improvements there. Hopefully those guys show up and show out. All right, we got an exit stage left here on BetMGM tonight. We come back. Our buddy Jared Smith's going to drop on by. We're going to pick his brain about a smorgasbord of topics in sports betting. Don't you go anywhere, fools. This is BetMGM tonight on the BetMGM Network.